Dive in the deep end, it's time to defend your movie.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to episode 0 of the Defending Your Movie podcast. I am your host, Jeremy Meyer. So this, a lot of the audience here is probably a holdover from the last podcast, which was my screenplay podcast, the Shelved Film podcast. And unfortunately, that podcast is no longer. It was just a very time-consuming show that, I was super proud of for a very long time, but eventually just felt like I wasn't able to give it my 100%, and if I wasn't giving it 100%, it just didn't really feel fair anymore to anyone who was listening still or, kind of anticipating the next episodes. I felt like I wasn't meeting expectations. And unfortunately, I had to make the difficult decision of it was kind of just time to sunset that show and move on. But I held back for a long time. I was lying to myself, like, no, I can still make this work, just trying to fit. Because what happened was my day job and my responsibilities increased and my time commitment increased. And I really just didn't have as much time to be reading screenplays, setting up a guest, getting them to read the screenplay, setting up time to record, and it just was becoming impossible. And I wanted to still have a podcast, so I wasn't ready to just kind of like push it out of the way yet, but I just didn't have my next idea. And then I was thinking, so I did an episode of Defending Your Movie on the Shelved podcast a while back. I had a friend of mine come on, Adam Condra, and we discussed the Guy Pearce action film Lockout, which is still a great episode. And I might actually pull that just for an episode of this, but I don't know. So, that was going to be a thing. I was going to just try to, like, fill time on the weeks where I didn't have as much time for script episodes. I was going to try to do other stuff. And that was the only one that ever even ended up getting done. And, in the meantime, I was still just kind of pushing out script episodes when I could. And I felt like I was waning, and I was not happy with the content I was putting out. So eventually it just kind of hit me like, hey, why don't I just do Defending Your Movie as its own podcast? So that's exactly what we're going to do here. I've already, at this point, recorded like 14 weeks worth of episodes. So I'm good to go for a while, and I'm going to be, filling my time until then, just recording even more. Because my plan here was get as many episodes recorded before our launch date, which is, our official launch date is next week on August 2nd. That'll be our official episode 1, which we will talk about here in a moment. But I wanted to do an episode 0 to just kind of like introduce the show. And so here we are. But yeah, so I love the idea of defending a movie because everybody has a movie that they feel is underrated. And that is kind of the pitch of the show. Every Monday I'm going to sit down with a guest who will choose the movie. Occasionally I will choose the movie and just find a guest who wants to talk about a movie that I want to talk about. But 90% of the time it's going to be the guest chooses a movie. And they come on, we watch the movie, then they come on, and we just kind of talk about it. It's just like an idle conversation. There's no, like, set format for the show. Like, we're not breaking anything down, and we're not specifically looking at bad movies. Now, a lot of these movies are probably going to have, like, rotten scores on Rotten Tomatoes, but there is no bar for what movie qualifies for the podcast. I use the term underrated as being something that is very negotiable. So I think kind of the blanket term is a movie that you are very passionate about that maybe does not get as much attention nowadays or never got a lot of attention, or a movie that you think is good or that other people think is bad. But on the other hand, maybe it is a movie that is popular. Like maybe it's a movie that has like an 80% on Rotten Tomatoes, but nobody really talks about it anymore, or it just has fallen out of the zeitgeist of popular culture. I think as long as you have a like good defense on why this is the movie you want to pick, and that defense could just be, I am super passionate about this movie. And that's fine. So, there is going to be movies of varying quality, and of the episodes that I've already recorded, you will see that pretty early on. It's been fun doing this show, like preparing to launch it and recording all these episodes. I'm getting to rewatch movies that I've seen that I love. I am discovering some movies for the first time, and I am being introduced to movies that is just like, oh my gosh, I had no idea something like this existed. And it's, it's led to fun conversations and fun guests. And I want to go ahead and give a blanket thank you to everyone who so far has guested on the show. I very much appreciate it. I also want to give it, while we're doing shout outs, I want to give a shout out to Kevin Aldridge, who did my new theme song. And you can check out his work on kevinaldridge.com, and his social media, I believe, is Kevin J. Aldridge. Which all this will be in the show notes for the episode. But he did the theme music for my song. He also did the theme music for a podcast for a couple friends of mine. Nick Almendarez, who hosts My Violet Tendencies, and Alberto Lara, known as Scrump, and Dave Stankin, who did the PWT cast. So, he's a friend of the show, I guess you would say. And he was kind enough to make my intro music and kind of like my ad music and stuff, so I just want to give him a shout out. Also, while I mentioned Dave, I'll give him a shout out because he helped me make the logo. I designed the logo and he just kind of perfected it. He also designed the designs for my merch store, which, since we're there, why don't we just talk about that as well. So the show's launching on August 2nd, but the merch store is already up at belowthecollar.com/defendingyourmovie. Currently, we have 3 t-shirt designs on there, which is just a logo shirt, a Star Wars kind of logo parody shirt, and then a Back to the Future logo parody shirt. I do have another design I will be uploading, which is a parody of a Marvel movie. I'll let you see that when it goes live. Not sure when I'm going to upload that. I have a few other designs that I'll sprinkle throughout the year as well. But yeah, honestly, if you want to support the show, that is the best way to do it. Because honestly, just buying one t-shirt would cover our hosting duties for a month. So that is the best way to do it. If you want to support the show monetarily, there's also, we're going to have a Patreon, and we'll talk about the Patreon content. So it's going to be patreon.com/defendingmovie, and that is also the same name for our social medias, Twitter and Instagram, at defendingmovie. But so the Patreon, we have multiple tiers, different options. One of them gives you a discount on the merch store, so if you want to go in at that level, you can get a discount on our shirts. And one day I hope to have a mug up there, because I had a mug for our previous podcast, but do not have one for the current one. But I'll get that up there. So the Patreon, there is going to be monthly content. There is already some legacy content, I guess I would call it, up there. So part of what I want to do is every month I want to have some sort of bonus episode, and it will be either a movie commentary track, of which there are currently 4 already on the Patreon as legacy content. There's one for Tron Legacy with a friend of mine, Alan Kessinger, who's also a guest on 2 episodes of the show coming up. And then there are 3 commentaries with my wife for the original Star Wars trilogy. Now, she had never seen the original Star Wars movies, and, Star Wars is my favorite movies of all time. So we sat down and watched all 3 original movies for her first time. Everything you hear on those commentaries is her first reaction to seeing those for the first time. And then we do kind of like a little initial follow-up at the end of the movie. But yeah, those are fun. So honestly, what I think is the most fun of the legacy content is, I think there's 5 videos. I can't remember if it's 4 or 5. But I did my own fan edit of the Justice League Snyder Cut. And I recorded my process of editing the movie. So my goal was to edit it down to a 3-hour movie, which I did. and I still need to do like a screening for myself and take notes and see if there's anything I need to edit or change or move around or something like that. But that is on there. So what I did was, not the cut of the movie is not on there. I'm not sure I can do that legally. But what I did was I recorded my editing sessions. And those videos are up there as Justice League Diaries. You know, if you subscribe to the Patreon, you can watch my 4 or 5 videos of me going through and editing the Snyder Cut down to a 3-hour version, and just like my process. And, you know, I try to explain why I'm cutting what I'm cutting or what I'm doing. I think they're fun little videos, and I actually might do more content like that in the future. There would be no set schedule for that. That's just kind of like, hey, when I have time to work on it, I would, and then I would post the videos right after. But I also did an edit for what is it called? Falcon and Winter Soldier, where I took the entire series, like all 6 episodes, and edited it down into one movie, which I believe was also 3 hours. And that was a lot of fun. I still need to also watch that and make sure the edit works. What I will say is one day I want to find a way to screen those. And that would be a Patreon exclusive. And I got to figure out what I can do legally, because I can't sell access to these movies that I do not own. But, you know, maybe selling access to like private Zoom chats or Discord chats where I happen to be showing video is something I can do. I also need to find out what way will actually work, because I've hosted video on Zoom before, but the problem is you can only have so many people in a Zoom conversation for so long unless you're a premium member. And I've tried it on Discord, and it just wasn't working. Like, the video was all funky, so I need to figure that out. But yeah, maybe one day I can host screenings for my edited down versions of Justice League or Falcon and Winter Soldier, and if that works, then I will be able to do more of those in the future, and I think that would be a lot of fun. Like, that's kind of a hobby of mine, to just editing movies and just kind of working on stuff like that, and, you know, having a reason to do that I think could be a lot of fun. If not, the videos of my editing sessions are still there. I didn't record my editing for Falcon and Winter Soldier, but the Justice League ones are available. So yeah, that's the Patreon. The social media, as I already talked about. So I have on the social media, the Twitter and the Instagram, again, at Defending Movie. I do have an image up there that kind of gives like a little rundown of like, hey, here's the links for the stuff. So you can go check that out if you want to follow up on all that information. But yeah, so I'm just super, super excited to be launching this show. As much as I love the Shelf Film Podcast, I just feel like I was letting the audience down after a certain point. And this one, I think, is going to be a lot more fun. It's going to be a lot more personable. It's a lot easier to get guests on, and I've already had a lot of really fun guests. So I'm super excited for everyone to hear the show. I will say, next Monday, which the show will be launching every Monday, will be our episode 1. So this is just kind of an introductory episode. Episode 1, we are not going to be talking to a movie. Instead, I'm going to be talking to a guest, sort of an interview, but it is also just kind of a idle conversation with Matt Rory from the Giant Bomb website. It's a video game website, and he used to work for a movie website that was kind of a big inspiration for this podcast. So we're going to talk about that. That'll be all on next week's episode 1. You know, it was very important to me to try to get him on the show for that episode, just kind of out of respect. And, you know, we'll talk about that on next week's episode. But, yeah, so that's going to be kind of the rundown for the show. You know, one thing I did forget to mention about the Patreon was, for the monthly content. So, you know, if you sign up, you do get the episodes early. You know, those will be uploaded on there, but also, there will be monthly bonus episodes, and my goal is to alternate content. So one month will be a movie commentary track. The next month, I want to continue do shelved episodes. So, you know, covering a script for a movie that was never made or drastically changed, and those would alternate between months, so it should give me a lot of time to get one of those episodes ready. I'm not sure which one I'll be starting with in August. My dream would be to have a Defending Your Movie episode, a commentary track, and cover a script all for Suicide Squad, because the new Suicide Squad movie launches in August, and I have a script for an old one that was never made, and then I have friends and acquaintances that are actually fans of the Suicide Squad movie, and I would love to get them to do an episode on the movie, but then also do a commentary track. That would be the perfect trifecta, and just launch all of that in August, but I'm not sure if timing is going to work out, so my goal is to get something for August, but the Patreon bonus stuff might have to start in September, but there is plenty of legacy content on there to keep you busy for the entire month of August. So be sure to check out the Patreon and check out the rewards. There is a tier that's as low as $1, like, hey, I just want to help out, here's $1. So if you want to do that, you absolutely can. But yeah, again, the merch store is definitely a great way to support the show. Like I said, one shirt basically equals 1 month hosting, so super appreciate that, anyone who wants to check it out. Plus, I'm going to be adding some fun shirt designs, because it's fun to make those. I like doing like movie title parodies, so if you got any ideas for them, let me know. But that's going to be it for our episode 0. I'm super stoked to be launching this show. I hope everyone enjoys it. I think it's going to be 10,000% better than the last podcast. As much as I loved the shelved podcast, this is going to be the show I think I hang my hat on and that I'm going to be most proud of. So be sure to check out all that stuff. Follow us on the social medias so you can keep up with all the new releases and the news that's going to be coming out about all the new content. And be sure to check back on Monday, August 2nd, for our episode 1 of Defending Your Movie.